Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a bright Wednesday morning, where we will discuss the sense and sensibility of the state of architectural education in India with none other than Professor Habeeb Khan, Architect Habeeb Khan, the President of Council of Architecture India. I am Geeta Balakrishnan, and today I will engage Habeeb ji for his observations, insights on the NEP, the state of India's architecture, the Bachelor of Architecture admissions, and the profession's future. My co-host Neeraj Kumar from IIESC Shibpur has joined us on behalf of NASA for a little while. We are happy to see the support from the fraternity, and we especially thank all the colleges for taking the initiative of broadcasting this at your auditorium in the midst of reviews and examinations. During my recent visit to VGU Jaipur in October, I heard Architect Habeeb Khan discussing admissions and architectural education and professional practice with the organizers. And in his characteristic way of speaking, he began by saying, "Let me address the elephant in the room." Even before anyone raised the concern about the scenario, he himself spoke about all the issues that many of us are concerned about. His term at COA has certainly been eventful with many visible changes on various fronts. And he's someone who believes in open discourse. Hence, we invited him to this forum to share his advice, his caution with the fraternity. During his tenure, Architect Habeeb Khan has enabled a major restructuring of the minimum standards of architectural education, shifting from the over-specification of a semester-by-semester description to a choice-based credit system that increases flexibility and autonomy for schools and their students. COA has developed a quality-based assessment process for reviewing architecture colleges, along with the instituting a closure policy where colleges unable to fulfill basic requirements and sufficient seats will close down. The previous SNS lectures so far focus on the impact architects create on the environment and society. However, this SNS lecture, this Sense and Sensibility lecture, looks within to understand how external factors and political and policy decisions can and have impacted the field of architecture in our country, more specifically, architectural education. I will now request Neeraj, the National Vice President of NASA India, to come and introduce Professor Khan.
Thank you, Geeta ma'am. It's a privilege to be here with Professor Habeeb Khan. He is an inspiring mentor and a leader. Architect Habeeb Khan is currently the President of Council of Architecture. He has been involved in teaching since beginning of his career. He has been taking guest lectures and engaging with design studios in architecture colleges all over the country, apart from just juries and examinations. He is currently the director at Priyadarshini Institute of Architecture Design and Studies, PIADS Nagpur, and Lokmanya Tilak Institute of Architecture Design Studies, LTIADS Mumbai. His design teaching revolves around sensitizing students towards their own heritage and roots, context and climate, within the framework of being contemporary. Habeeb Khan has actively been working with the government of Maharashtra on few policy framing guidelines. He has also been nominated by the government of Maharashtra on the Council of Architecture. Welcome, Professor Khan. Please share a few words on the state of architecture education to begin this discussion.
Good morning, everyone. It is overwhelming to be amongst all of you every time that we interact and we discuss various issues, various concerns concerning architectural education and profession. And I want to thank Ethos and Geeta and her team for giving this opportunity once again to be on your platform and to reach out to our fraternity, reach out to our colleagues and learn in the process so that we are able to incorporate all that we learn and all that we hear into the policies that we make for the betterment of the future of architecture in our country. And architectural profession, Geeta, I'll just take 2 minutes.
Take your time. We want to hear from you.
Yeah,
please.
So, and then we can start question, answer, and interaction.
Yes.
So architectural profession is actually at a crossroad and is changing very rapidly. And the entire way the entire profession is changing in the last decade and still changing, and it will keep changing in the next coming decade, is something that we academicians are unable to gauge and unable to understand. And this kind of lack of understanding, I'm not blaming the academicians, I'm not blaming the professionals, but I'm just trying to tell you a factual situation, a pragmatic opinion, which we have come across, having a bird's eye view of the profession as well as education in the country, is that we academicians need to understand that the profession has changed, the nature of profession has changed, the fabric of profession has changed, and the professionals practicing architects are also not able to understand or catch up with the speed with which the profession fabric is changing, with the professional fabric is changing. And as a result, we will see that a lot of practices are not doing very well, not being able to keep pace with the changing face of the profession. And the corporate framework and the corporate structure, collaboration and joint ventures, consortiums, wherein you have multi-talented, multi-disciplined team working on a project, on an architectural project, is the order of the day. And gone are those days of iconicism in architecture, where architect was the team leader. I'm an architect, still the coordinator and the pin, wherein everything revolves around the architect. But working in isolation is no longer the order of the day. The nature of projects has changed, nature of practice has changed, nature of approach to a particular project has changed. Unfortunately, the academia has not risen up to that change that is happening in architectural profession. And we are still stuck up with the way we were teaching architecture 30 years ago, 20 years ago. In spite of the flexibility that the minimum standards of architectural regulation 2020 provides you, the syllabi and the curriculum hasn't traversed and embraced the flexibility that 2020 regulations provide. And this has resulted in a gap which was already existing into a wider chasm which we are unable to bridge. The profession has to understand and interact with the media, with the academia, and the academia has to be open enough to involve professionals and make a product which is ready for the market. The expectations that the professionals have from academia is that they are not producing architects who are competent enough to be absorbed directly in offices, or are able to rise to the challenges of the profession which a young fresh graduate faces. And this gap is increasing by the day and is also resulting into abysmally low packages and salaries that our young fresh graduates get from the profession. And this is resulting into the admissions going down, the preferences that young generation has for architecture, because architecture is a long course, is a very hard, difficult course. And after architecture, after you graduate, it's a further marathon where you need to have your patience, where you need to maintain your mental balance, and also tide over financial crisis. So it takes a long time for an architect to settle down either in an office or in his own practice or whatever. And the patience, that is the main thing in an establishment of an architect, is missing in the younger generation. So all these issues and concerns need to be incorporated by our academia, need to understand, and also by the professionals. They cannot blame the academia for not rising up to the occasion or to the changing trends, but they need to also get involved extensively with the academia to bridge the gap between the two. The verticals that we are having these days, teachers don't practice, teachers don't have their own projects. Sometimes they're barred by their managements or by the government. And the fundamental fact that if you cannot build, or if you cannot construct, or cannot supervise or get involved in the process of architecture and construction, how can you teach the same thing? If you see the medical profession, you will find that they're very intricately intertwined amongst each other. The medical college and the medical hospital are all intertwined, while that is not happening in our profession. And that is the bane of our profession at the moment, wherein the gap is increasing by the day. Academia is more concerned and involved with writing papers, doing research, doing PhDs, doing doctorates or whatever, and so on and on. Anyway, that we'll discuss when there will be question and answers on that. But this is the gist of the whole thing. And with the coming in of the NEP, we're going to see radical changes. We're going to see drastic, divergence from what we're doing at the moment. It's a tsunami probably which we are seeing coming, but we're not ready for it. We need to prepare ourselves to be NEP ready. And very soon we'll be circulating a policy in which we have extensively worked out the reforms in education and the policy that the council has made, so which will probably act as a guideline for you to transform into under the new education policy into institutions of multidisciplinary activities. So all that we'll discuss today as and when the questions come.
Great.
So over to you, Geeta.
Yeah. Thanks. While you did, touch on being NEP ready, I remember when we were at VGU, you kind of crystal gazed into different scenarios that are possible once that entire flexibility comes in, and maybe that will come through in the discussions that we have. But we talked about elephants in the room. I'm going to address a couple of elephants in this room as well. Before we get into looking at NEP in more detail, let me first refer to a conversation we had a couple of years ago when you first appeared on ASEG. COVID had just struck us and we were homebound for a bit. We were discussing the Architects Act. There was a call for suggestions from the fraternity and amendments were proposed by COA. Could you just give us a status of the same as of today and what we can expect on that front before we move ahead?
That's the largest and the heaviest elephant in everyone's
True.
mind.
No, I just wanted to know where we are on that. Is it the proposal has been submitted? I guess the amendments have been.
The problem with the fraternity is if I say the current status, it will be stalled by our opposition.
Okay.
I mean, I'll give you an example. I had requested when I took over after that program that we had on the amendment, Architects Amendment Act, we had made a format of a letter to be written by a member of parliament of your constituency. I'm sure all these member of parliaments are not poor guys. They involve architects, they involve, they build their homes or projects or whatever. And I'm sure every MP has an architect. So I requested all the architects who are working for the MPs or the MLAs to write to the ministry to amend the act and to help the fraternity, and gave a standard template of what is to be written in that letter. But unfortunately, not a single architect took the trouble of requesting their client or their member of parliament to write to the ministry. And there are about more than 800 letters from the engineering lobby, which acted as an initial roadblock in the whole process of the amendment to the act. And because we don't care, we are very, very expressive people, we are very volatile, we do not think twice before pulling our pants in public, washing dirty linen in public. And we are very active on social media, but when it comes to actual work and actual contribution, we are very poor at that. Anyways, so had there been a little more support, the process would have been expedited. But at the moment, the council has sent it to the ministry. There's to and fro happening in the ministry. Some discussions and some opinions are being generated because you have to take the opinion of the stakeholders. So that process is going on at the moment. And let me tell you one thing very clearly. Amendment to any act, whether it is the Architects Act or any act, is not an easy thing to do.
Absolutely, yes.
Amending an act in the parliament is a major work. I'll tell you the process. The ministry has formed a committee who's sitting on it, will discuss. They will opine on the amendments. It will be sent back to the council. Council will opine on it, send back to the ministry. Then ministry, if it finds okay, goes to the law ministry. Law ministry say it goes to the parliament. JPC, Joint Parliamentary Committee of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. Then they will opine. It will go back to the law ministry, then to the ministry, then to us, and the same route back when it will be finally tabled in the Rajya Sabha and then the Lok Sabha for it to be cleared and passed. So it's not a magic wand that you have just sent it and it will be done. As the expectation of our fraternity is, it will take time, but the process is on, and I'm sure something positive will happen. We had a very recently meeting with the concerned Minister of Education, and he has also instructed to expedite the process as fast as possible. And his opinion was, when the Architect Act was made in 1972, there were about 26 or 30 odd architects. So it was not possible for all the architects to work across the country on all the projects. Hence, these services were not defined. But now the situation has changed. So, there is a need to amend the Act and amend it expeditiously. But let me tell you, the situation is same.
Right. Okay. So I'm sorry. Yeah, intention was not to digress. It was just a follow-up on what we spoke last time. But I think what comes through very strongly in what you're saying, and I'm glad we're addressing a bunch of young architects here also today, young to be architects as well. I think what's coming through is that we do not stick together. We do not come together as a fraternity. And that's, I think, crucial if we want our futures to change. Is how I see it. Another little, I wouldn't say an elephant in the room, but another question that Prem Chandawakar, architect Prem Chandawakar, recently in an article on Architecture Live spoke about the main mandate of COA being of safeguarding the interests of general public, which is what I remember studying in my professional practice class way back when I was in SCA. Would you like to spare some time to elaborate on what COA is doing to address that? And why addressing, the interests of architects also becomes important as part of addressing common people, and hence the initiatives like COA Social Map, etc., are essential.
Let us understand one thing, that any act of the Parliament is for protection of the common people. We are protection of the common people against fraudulent practices of architects, against bad services, bad practices, and so on and on. So basically, any act is to prevent and help, common people to avoid malpractices, not to get fooled, and XYZ, whatever you want to call it. So what Prem has said, we had a discussion on it before he wrote that article, is absolutely right. We architects, because it's an Architects Act, we have embraced it as an Architects Act, or a Pharmacist Act, or a Nursing Act, whatever. But basically, it is for the protection of the common man. It is for the common man. I mean, we can use it to our advantage. We can excel in our services. We can be conscientious in our practice. We can have moral ethics by understanding the act, and so on, so that we are able to give services which are needed by the society. We at the council are working on it. The manual of architectural practice, which we are launching across the country, and are asking first architects to actually understand what the manual is all about, what the services are all about, what kind of contracts, documents, XYZ that you can work on, so that you are able to give those services to the people, to your clients. And then we go to the common people and tell them that this is the manual and this is what an ideal architectural practice or architectural service should be. And you expect this from your architect when you go to an architect. So it's a two-stage process. We are on the first stage at the moment. And as far as mandate is concerned, I do understand that there is a mandate of any statutory authority, but if you stick within the mandate, then you do what the council has been doing in the last 50 years. So as long as you cross boundaries, but do not trespass, it's perfectly all right. There was a lot of hue and cry. I'm sure you know about it when we started the COA Social.
Yes.
This was the mandate of the council or not, but I think COA Social has been the most successful effort that the council has ever taken.
Right. So much happening, so much awareness through it. There are some questions from the student audience that came in prior, and as well as we'll be taking them from the chat box as well. So the first question here, that's the most pressing, I suppose, for most students here as well, are architectural freshers are recruited at very low salaries in various firms. Incidentally, Neeraj had to leave for a job interview that called him out today, suddenly out of the blue. So I'm happy, I wish him luck. But the exposure and experience is a perk. How do we negotiate between getting a good experience as well as getting a good enough salary? And, this regular refrain that comes from parents as well, that 5 years of study, so much spent on education and getting a 20,000 job. How do you justify something like this? And how do you learn? I know we learn eventually, earn eventually, but for middle-class families, How can they be dependent on families till even much later after they graduate?
Well, you can't. That's the reality, which I just told in my opening address.
Right.
Unfortunately, a fresh graduate today in our offices is being paid lesser than the salary of a driver of the office, or sometimes even peon of the office. And most of the times lower than the minimum wages stipulated in that particular state. And this is the major issue which is concern, which our younger generation is concerned about. And this is something which we as the council cannot address. We at the council can address this indirectly. I mean, it is the expectation. If you see our Instagram handle, or if you see the Twitter or any other handle, the social media handles of the council, you will find the maximum amount of comments that come from the younger lot is about the salaries. They say, why is the COA not able to protect the salaries of why can we not ensure better pay packages? But COA cannot do that. I mean, in fact, no regulatory authority can do that. What I discussed earlier in the opening remarks was that until we are able to produce an architect who will be able to expect and surpass the expectations of the profession, until that happens, the gap of the packages and the salaries will not be met. Because I'm also a practicing architect, and if someone comes to me as a fresh graduate and I have to start training him in terms of how to do detailing, how to do working drawings, how to work out production drawings, or basic drafting, so that is something which is not acceptable to me as a practicing architect. And that is what is happening everywhere across the country, wherein we find that the graduates which are coming out from our educational institutes are not up to the mark, or not up to that level which will be directly absorbed and also be able to contribute positively to the office. Second thing is, we architects are also exploiting our graduates. We are actually decimating the respect of our own profession. If I am paying 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees as a salary, as a package to a fresh graduate, I am decimating my own self and my own profession, which we are not able to understand. And this is happening because we as professionals are not charging the fee that we need to charge. You're working in 0.1%, 0.5%, you're undercutting, you're having unethical, immoral practices. And how can you push that money or roll that money into your offices, because that money is corrupt money. And that is the reality that we need to face in our profession. If the council has stipulated a certain amount of benchmark for a certain fee, there is some reason behind it. It's not that, including in the manual, if you see, we have given exquisite details of how to calculate a particular fee, and how to arrive at a certain fee, add your profit that you would want to, 10, 20, 30, whatever you would want to, and then arrive at a fee. And if that fee is not logical or is not appropriate, and you want to work 1/10 of the fee stipulated, how will you be able to pay your graduates? And you as an architect are having alternate sources of income. So unless these kind of practices, both from the academia, where we are not able to understand the expectation of the profession and unable to produce qualified architects who will be absorbed into profession at a very good level of expertise, and the profession and the professionals stops these unethical practices, the situation will not improve. That is for sure. And the younger lot, when you graduate and come out and get a job or offer, compare it with the IT guys, compare it with parallel streams of engineering, you will find that their packages, there is a disparity in the packages that you get. Huge disparity. But if you see an architect down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, you will find that you will be able to afford 10 of your contemporary friends who got a huge disparity package when you started. You get my point? Today in my office, I am able to pay 10 CEOs salary after 30 years of practice. And those CEOs are still, at the top of the rung of their respective branches that they worked in. So that is the difference, but that needs patience, that needs luck, that needs destiny. But I'm sure if you see architects in my town or any other town, architects who are 10 years plus and who have survived and taken the brunt, they're doing extremely well.
So
there
one,
is no
of
dearth
course,
of work. There is no dearth of work in the profession. So you only need to take the brunt and have the guts and the strength to tide over.
retain your passion, be patient is something that you're saying. But at the same time, I think what you're also saying, which comes back to architects not rallying together enough, where, you know, as a fraternity, you decide that you're not going to undercoat, which is a difficult hurdle to cross because there are people.
I'll give you an interesting example. Now that we're talking of that, I'll give you an interesting example. We had met a particular, I will not name the department and the secretary, the chief secretary of that particular department. And we told them, what is the kind of fee that you're offering officially in the tender? You're saying maximum fee to be given to the architect is 1%. He said, this is not me who is giving, it is you architects who are demanding 1%. You guys are not going more than 1%. I said, yeah, I mean, when you put a cap of 1%, what do? He said, fine. There's a tender that we've shortlisted 5 people in the technical bid. And now there's a financial bid. These are the names. You are the president of council. So go and talk to all these 5 people. Tell them to quote 3% and I will give 3% in spite of the cap being 1%. I was so sad and so shocked. I talked to all those 5 people, told them, this is the situation. Please do not quote less than 3%. If that is what the 3% bracket was. The lowest quote that came was 1.8%. Now, there is no trust that your president is calling, assuring you that if you get 3, you will get it on merit. But probably that architect wanted the job. Probably he was not sure of his merit. So this is the reality that we are facing in our profession.
And one person does it, then everybody follows suit because it's a matter of...
No, what happens is you are in a compromising situation. You told the other 4 who quoted 4, but one guy went ahead and quoted 1.8. I mean, what do you do to this kind of attitude and approach that our architects are having? Right. So, it's very, very difficult unless you understand, you set up your benchmarks and say, I am not going to stoop down to that level. If you want to eat shit all on the road, it is your choice and your call.
So you're really saying that the onus is on the fraternity of architects to bring about that change?
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, whether you accept it or not, there are a lot of negativity in the profession. Where they say ki aisa nahi, waisa nahi, engineers aa rahe hain, kaam le rahe hain, farji architects kaam le rahe hain, there are quacks who are working as architects, calling themselves architects, and so on and on. But in spite of all that is happening, architects are needed, and architects are everywhere working on projects, working on infrastructure projects, government projects, private projects. Society. It's not that the society has not recognized the contribution of architects. It is up to us to rise to the occasion and say, "No, we all will not charge lesser than this." When that day will come, everything will be fine.
But it also affects the quality of the product. And isn't that something that the council is responsible for, in a sense, because it's responsible for the people?
Absolutely. And that is why the manual is there. That is why manual tells you, enter into a contract. This is the kind of drawing that you expect from an architect. This is the level of detailing that you would want. And this is the kind of services that you expect from an architect. That is what the manual precisely does that.
Yeah, but it's still not a enforcement or a...
See, it cannot be. NBC is also not an enforcement. But the quality of the document is so good, like the manual content is so good, that over a period of time, it will become a benchmark. See, all part cannot be regulated. The entire part cannot be mandated into a mandatory requirement, just like the NBC cannot. So that is the drawback and the limitation that the manual has. And tell me one thing: if there are 10 architects bidding and all of them quote 3%, what will the client do?
Obviously, look at the one that is merit. So that's perfectly fine. But that's one project that you were personally able to intervene.
No, I'm just giving an example. See, I will tell you, at the most, what will happen is you will lose the project. Architects as a group will lose the project. Client says, "Nahi, mere ko 3% nahi dena, mere ko 1% dena hai, so I will give it to a person who is a non-architect." The client deserves it. Let him do that. But if you are able to excel and prove yourself that hiring an architect will give you a better output and a better product and value for your money, it happens over a period of time.
So before we close this part of the conversation, may I just ask you, what is the hope we can give our students here? Because we are speaking as if, when they get out, they're going to face this dismal future for a bit. But, in the long run, is there some hope that things will change?
See, there are 2-3 ways that a young architect can, survive
Navigate
or
this.
rise in the. One is you start working in an office, prove your worth, and stay there and grow in that organization. Second is you gain experience, gain the goodwill, and ride on the back of the architect you're working and establish your practice. But in this entire process, I do understand there are people who are hard pressed for money, lower middle class, who take loans to learn, loans to study, and all these things are there. And then, I know an architect who is about 28-year-old, 30-year-old, wants to get married, is not even earning 30,000, 40,000. So he or she gets a issue, how to survive, how to raise a family. These are issues, certain issues. But based on the foundation of all this struggle, your future life is dependent. So you need to be very patient. You need to be hardworking, and you need to be able to bear the onslaught that happens in the initial couple of years that happens. And I'm sure if you have perseverance, you will succeed.
I saw that in your presentation of your own practice, and that's something we'll do some other time for our viewers. You spoke about the need to, like that bridging that gap that exists between you emerging as a student and what the professional that's hiring you wants. Is there something that we can do in terms of changes in the architectural syllabus, if any, to make it more apt to bridge that gap firstly?
The thing is that after a while, when the NEP will be implemented, the entire curriculum and the entire system will change. At the moment, if you go through the minimum standards of architectural education regulation 2020, you will understand that there's a lot of flexibility which has been provided. And we are not insisting on that flexibility to be implemented in all schools at the moment, because we know in the NEP, the entire thing is going to be, a little more open and a little less watertight. So,
and that's not too far away.
I don't think so. The issue is the architectural education has become, I would not use that word, but has gone to dogs since the day it was converted into an organized system. The organization of architectural education has actually killed the ethos and the spirit of learning architecture. If you see the way architecture was learned earlier, before Bawas came into place, and then organized educational systems happened, and architecture was also imbibed into an institution, and so on and on. There were experiments that were done in India itself, when architecture was being taught in an unorganized manner into a more flexible and a more lesser watertight systems, and the schools were doing extremely well. And let's not take names, but they're doing extremely well. Unfortunately, they were hounded and put into the system of COAs, regulatory system, and so on, and the schools got killed. But organization of education actually is the bane of architectural education. Regulation of architectural education is another bane of architectural education, and we need to understand this process of flexibility of architectural learning, and that I'm hoping NEP will provide that, wherein the multidisciplinary flexibility and the kind of independence that is needed to learn architecture will come into place. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Flexibility, in a sense, is empowering the colleges and the students and the academia as well to give and make the right choices, I presume. So that's
absolutely,
that would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
To add to this topic, I also feel the need to design our curriculum. I think the flexibility addresses that, but maybe each college should take it up as a mandate as well to consider the rural as much as the urban, because this is something during my now 2,000 plus kilometer walk from Kolkata to Delhi and another one from Kolkata to Dhaka. I saw a different India, untouched by the power of good design and architects, what you're talking about, where they're designing themselves and there are locals who are helping them, yet exuberating traditional wisdom through what I call the invisible monuments. And one such place is Madla If you don't mind, I'll just take 2 minutes off to share with everyone the details of a fellowship we've just launched. Can we have the screen share? Yes, thank you. So the Madla Fellowships, ARCOS Madla Fellowships of 2022-2023 is an opportunity for individual students as well as colleges affiliated with the ARCOS clubs to use their skills to work on ground, to conserve and develop the cultural and local identity of a village Madla located in Madhya Pradesh. This is a fellowship that is designed with social responsibility at the core. Individuals can take it up as well as a college by itself. And this challenge places its participants at the forefront of a movement to revitalize the village identities of India. If you stand for architect social responsibility, then you may be interested in the other offering as well, which we've been doing for a while through Ethos, but this time the Ethos Foundation is taking it up along with under the ARCOS initiative. In association with Sengobain, we're dispersing grants of 1 lakh to 6 students and budding professionals. And if you have an idea that needs 1 lakh for execution, then apply now. We, fund it in a manner that a prototype can be built. Moving on to the next question, which Neeraj was supposed to handle, and it's something that's come from him as well. Habeebji, do you think it's a good idea to bring down the course duration to 4 years and let students engage in real-time work sooner? You're on mute, I think, sir.
No, I am not.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
There was a break in the voice that can you repeat the question again?
So is it a good idea to go to a system of 4 years and allowing a 1 year of practical training?
No, in fact, that was the system in Nagpur University for a long time. I mean, still there now, it's changing now. But we had 1 year of practical training and 4 years of education, 4 years of formal learning. But all this will change in the light of the NEP. All this will change. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 exits. So I'm discussing that. Something that is not going to exist probably is not.
Would you like to elaborate on the exits since we are talking this? Because it was very interesting for me to hear from you that day.
No, the flexibility that the NEP provides, there are 2 kinds of flexibilities that comes into practice in architectural education. Number 1 is that there's a 1 year exit, you get a certificate. There's a 2 year exit, you get a diploma. There's a 3 year plus 1 exit, which you get a degree, and 5 year you get a consolidated degree, and so on and on. And there's a flexibility of banking your credits. You need, let's say, if you need to have 160 credits or 100 credits or whatever, you can bank your credits into a credit bank, and you can go work in the field, do whatever you would want to, and come back and use your credits to, continue architectural education or any education that you would want to. For example, I have studied about 60 credits. I get a certificate, and then I go out, work for 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, 1 month, and then come back and use my credits to continue my architectural degree, and so on and on. So that flexibility is there. Plus, you can have multidisciplinary credit systems wherein you can go and study. There, of course, there's going to be a framework wherein you need to have so many core credits and so many non-core credits, and so on and on. Every subject will have a certain value to the architectural design, let's say, is 20 credits, while theory is 10 credits. And if you want to take go and play volleyball or want to play cricket, you can go and play cricket. You can learn music. If you're some student from sociology or economics want to study a subject in architecture, he or she can come and study architecture, and so on and on. So that flexibility is there as long as you are following the structure that will be made for a particular degree or a certificate to be achieved. So that flexibility is there, and I think that is what will improve the quality of education in architecture, because a lot of inputs which are needed, which are from the allied disciplines and allied fields, will come into place. And that is something which we are really looking forward to, which will ultimately change the quality of architectural education. The challenges that will arise out of the whole thing is that our institution and our faculty needs to be ready to teach a student. If a student wants to take, let's say, acoustics or illumination or building services, and that student happens to be from biology or botany or something, then there's a challenge. That person needs to take a bridge course. He or she needs to do, some other credits to come. But there's a challenge to teach a particular student who has what you call not learned the basics of architecture. Design. So that challenge which our academia needs to rise to.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very different,
Very different.
way of teaching. Yeah.
Very different.
There's a question from Jay Ganesh who says, drastic change is required in architectural education with respect to the NEP model. Nothing much has been done for adapting it adequately just now. VTU has adopted it only as syllabus in Karnataka for namesake, is what he says. Unless COA makes a strategy for this transition properly, which has been delayed for a long time, it's probably going to be difficult implementing it. Also, courses such as B design, etc., are not approved under COA. Again, B design is approved or affiliated under AICTE. So there will be a lot of a hodgepodge. And how do you, like you talked about, a multidisciplinary or multidimensional way? VR cannot work in isolation. That's also something you mentioned. So how do we look at integrating these different fields of architecture, design, interior design, etc.? And what would COA's role be in easing people into this or colleges into this new mode?
Don't mind me saying so. This gentleman who was asked this question is in isolation. Had he been visiting the council's website, he would have known that the policy for the NEP and the education reforms is already in place. And the council has passed it about 6 months ago. But there are certain technical issues before we make it public and before we send it to our stakeholders. There's certain formalities and certain deliberations that are needed before it is circulated. But we will be doing that very, very shortly. So that policy of how to hold hands and tell the institutions that that this is what you need to do for this flexibility and the NEP that is coming in. I will rephrase that. There are certain concerns and issues that we still have with our Ministry of Education, and we are discussing with them. And probably in a week's time or 10 days' time maximum, we'll be able to circulate the policy and the stand of the council vis-a-vis reforms in architectural education and the new education policy. So please look forward to it. We will circulate it. It will be on the website as well. And the discussions and deliberations that have happened on this reforms policy is there on the council website. Those who is interested can go and see the council minutes, the executive committee minutes, and you will find all the discussions and deliberations that have happened on the education reforms in various meetings that have been conducted. But I think let's give it a fortnight, 10 days, and you will have the policy in hand that will act as a guideline to the institutions to work out something which is tangible and probably make their own roadmap based on the guidelines that the council will provide. That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is concerning BDES. BDES at the moment is being done by AICTE, but if you go and grab everything from someone, it becomes war. So you need to grab or take little by little, piece by piece. And I'm happy to tell you that diploma in architectural engineering, diploma in architectural draftsmanship, diploma in architectural assistantship is now being regulated by the COA. And also last year we have added diploma in interior design, and next is BDES. So have patience, it will be done.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's another question from Arun Baby M. Wilson. In compliance with NEP, if architectural education is introduced with an exit program at different levels, can it be done through establishing startup incubation centers in colleges to enable students for entrepreneurship? In the same line, for PG programs, can students be admitted as associates to a consultancy program in which the school is a primary consultant? I think the objective is in sync with NEP. Can it be learning by doing kind of a approach?
Absolutely, absolutely free to do that and should be done. It is, in fact, it is being done in many institutions, in universities.
So that would be again all left to the respective institutions to take it forward if they wish. Great.
But that is the order of the day. I mean, that should be done. That will be the order of the day when the NEP will be implemented. Without skill development, without sensitizing about skill development and various skills, and entrepreneurship development, the NEP will fail if we don't do that.
What would be the way forward for what is being done so far? In the sense, I remember you saying that the ones that have taken admission in the current system will need to go through it. So there will be a parallel. Yeah, if you can just elaborate.
It will be a mess. it'll be a complete mess.
For a
It'll be
little while.
like, you have 5 years of a student, let's say, who has got admission this semester now, this academic year, will study architecture 5 years. While if the NEP is implemented this year to be implemented from next year, you'll have a new system of students who are, having this flexibility, exits, parallel disciplines, and you have one system which is working very rigidly. And so you'll have two parallel systems going on. In most of the universities, there are two batches, one which is on the credit-based choice system, choice-based credit system, and the other is non-choice-based credit systems. So there'll be 2 or 3 parallel systems of education running. So administratively, it will be a major mess when the implementation happens. And I foresee that for the next 10 years, our educational system will go down until it rises up like a phoenix with the NEP. But this administrative part, the implementation part of the NEP is what is being debated and worked upon at the moment as to what footprints it will leave and what destruction it will have and what positives it will have. So, we're also worried about it at the council, and we're also weighing various possibilities and working on the various avenues that will, generate out of this. Now, imagine the capability of a faculty to embrace. I'm not talking of the administration. I'm not talking of the administrators of academics. I'm talking of the faculty at the root level, grassroots level, who needs to rise to this challenge of the NEP and the other systems working together, and the examination systems working together.
For instance, there's a simple, so I'm speaking from the perspective of your students and faculty members. Please put down your questions that you have. But something that came to mind when you're talking about exit at the first year level, second year, third year level, you may need to revisit, you usually do maybe plumbing in 1 year, sanitation in 1 year, surveying in 1 year. You may need to do a bit of everything every year now in order to be able to exit well-rounded individuals.
No, let us understand, Geeta, we're not making them vocational professionals.
So when they leave with a certificate course, they still need to have a certificate in something that they can go out and use, right?
That is what the challenge is all about. At the end, what we need to think at the council level and also at the institutions level, when you read the policy, you will understand that what are we aiming at, that after 1 year, what is the level of expertise that a person will have, which will give him sustenance, which will give him economic sustenance as well. What is it that you are expecting will be the end result of the takeaway from 2 years of learning? What is that level of expertise or the knowledge systems that will be imparted in a student who is learning 2 years and not wanting to come back and complete further education? So these are challenges and systems which we need to work on. And we have given a guideline now. I'm sure all institutes will brainstorm on it and brainwash our existing systems and probably look ahead. But the implementation of the NEP by the state governments was also a question raised earlier to that by this gentleman.
Yeah.
The states who are politically aligned to the center are in a hurry to implement the new education policy, which I think is not correct unless it is implemented, because state education is a state subject as well as a central government subject, and that's where the clash happens. So unless the NEP is passed by the central government, I think state government should not rush to it, because it's going to create a mess of the whole thing. Imagine NEP being implemented in Karnataka and Maharashtra or Gujarat for that matter, and not being implemented in Rajasthan or any other state. Look at the kind of chaos that will be created in the entire thing. So.
And would council be conducting adequate faculty development programs to address managing NEP? Would that be part?
We are, if you see the topics of the
current
TRCs that are happening, and the programs, training programs that are happening at the TRCs, you will find they grow slowly and gradually.
We're already shifting.
We are shifting slowly and gradually. We are shifting. Like we cannot, like I said, change the system in a day. That's very drastic, So we're going step by step, and without you realizing that the change is coming gradually and slowly. So, but we are working on that, and I'm sure it will be continued ahead as well. And once the policy is circulated to the stakeholders, we'll give them time of a month or so, and then we will start having workshops on the policy that we are having for the educational reforms with the concerned stakeholders through the TRCs as well as independent workshops.
I'm sorry, I'm going to take a slight diversion once again because I'd like to use this audience to tell them about our 20th edition of our the biggest quiz that we host called Argument.
Commercial break.
Sorry, I'll take just 2 minutes. Because I also thought this is a good opportunity to thank the colleges that have joined us.
Oh, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So Acumen usually is conducted as a 4-zone quiz that culminates in a grand national finale. And we'd like you to register from an outstation, register from wherever online. And please note that the first team to register from an outstation college, unless the institute nominates the team, will get reimbursement on their travel and accommodation. So do participate, and we're looking forward to Argument being live once again. We've been doing it online for so long. We're also pleased to inform you that we are doing the 17th edition of Transparency has 3 categories this year with special incentives for colleges which have adopted as a studio project. And last year, the winning team actually went to Poland, and this year the opportunity is to go to Portugal. And through this competition and its guided approach, we plan to instill seeds of co-learning and collaboration above competition. And we're having a little workshop on concept to presentation this weekend on the 2nd and 3rd of December, where we'll be guiding participants to transform current academic projects to align with the Transparent 17 requirement. As we wait for more questions in the chat, I'd also like to take this opportunity. Like I said, I didn't want to wait till the end to thank all colleges who are broadcasting this in their auditoriums. And I'm thanking the colleges in order that I have here on my screen. And I, again, would really like to applaud all of you. Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University, Acharya Nagarjuna University College of Architecture and Planning, Bishop Jerome Institute, Christ University School of Architecture, Indubai Parikh School of Architecture, Kavikul Guru Institute of Technology and Sciences, Mohammad Satak AJ Academy of Architecture, Chennai, RV College of Architecture, School of Architecture, Urban Development and Planning, Symbiosis Skills and Professional University, School of Architecture, CIET, which is Coimbatore Institute of Engineering and Technology, and Sri Sri University. I see many colleges here who did not confirm through an email, but we're really joyous to see them here with their faculty and students. I'd also like to specially thank our member schools and colleges of architecture, Riva University, CIET, Bishop Jerome, Techno India for choosing ASEG as their academic affiliate. As you can see through the chart on the screen, the ASEG college membership gives your entire college access to more than 80 online courses and instances at very affordable fees. We are happy to announce collaborative studios starting mid-Jan with Hunarshala and Anupma Kundu. Details of the same will be mailed to all of you shortly. We thank 20 plus colleges which have shown interest, and some of them who have taken formally ARCOS clubs as part of their official college activity. Encourage others watching now to join ARCOS. And like I said, the Madla Fellowship is already open for an ARCOS club to take it on. I'm coming back. Habeebji, I'm sorry for that break. I hope it's not a break in our train.
It gives me a feeling that I'm in a professional program, in a TV chat program.
Well, you are the star. So, yes.
I'm just joking.
Amrita B has asked us, when in this age where the house unit sizes are getting smaller and prices are higher, what should an architect's role and responsibility be to tackle this situation? Please remember there are students here who are addressing you, not just as COA president, but as an architect running a successful practice as well.
No, this change that is happening in the housing that she's talking of has been happening since ages. It's not that, it's a gradual progress of a society. It's a path which every developed community, society, or a country takes. And this has happened in the West long ago. It happened 3 decades ago. Mm-hmm. But the profession hasn't been dead. It has grown, in fact. And if you see Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana or similar schemes of the government, wherein very small, affordable apartments like 300 square feet, 600 square feet, there are architects who are working on them. The architects need to rise to the challenging situations and the challenges that the society throws at you. And that is what you learn when you are learning to be an architect. And as a graph progresses in your career, you learn to face the newer challenges and the changed situations. So if this is a changing situation, if you think it is a changing situation, then you need to address it and catch the bull by its horn and learn and move ahead. It's not going to make a dent into architecture profession. Number one, it's not going to deter architects for not working in this. But let us agree to a fact that however social or however patriotic or however appropriate we would want to be, we're still a profession of the elitist. Like you were talking of, I can hardly see an architect, practicing in rural areas that you walk through. We have been neglecting the rural sector totally. We have been neglecting the public housing sector totally. And so much so that hundreds and lakhs of houses that are being built under various schemes of the government are being built by non-architects, are being constructed by contractors, non-trained architects, and so on and on. We have totally ignored the agro sector. We have totally ignored the agro-rural development sector, and so on and on. I've been telling them to do this, and this question falls into that ambit of segment wherein we architects do not contribute positively in that sector, although there are innumerable number of opportunities there. And the concept of a CSR, corporate social responsibility, although we may not be corporate officers, but we still as a professional have a social responsibility towards it. What are we doing as individual architects or officers to discharge this social responsibility that we need to have towards our country and towards our fellow citizens and society?
So and like you said, the practice itself, it's not as if there are no projects and there's no money to be made. The practice itself can be built on projects such as these.
But these things, Geeta, why this happens, I'll tell you. The fine line that differentiates a business and a profession is being eroded and being erased, slowly and gradually. We are forgetting that we are professionals. We are not businessmen.
Right.
And the training that is happening in our institutes need to understand and make these values very clear. What is a professional and what is a businessman? So we are actually, gradually eroding that concept of being professionals. And that is where all the discontent and all the issues that are plaguing our profession is coming in from.
Mohammed Satak the question from them takes us back to the NEP. While the NEP mandates, like you've been talking about, various exit and entry levels in different professional courses, how do you regulate that entry at various levels? Are we looking at a NATA kind of system for various entry points to ensure a minimum learning base? No. You're banking your credits, but you're coming back, and that credit is what is going to give you that entry, is it?
See, when there will be no regulation, architectural education will transform itself. So what we are saying in the NEP, we are not worried about the entry. We are not worried about what you teach. We are not worried about how you teach. We will be worried about what you have taught. What is the takeaway from your teaching? So we will have an exit exam. We'll have a professional qualifying examination before you become an architect.
So it's only at the end of that period is where you need to test the person, not really before.
At the end, when you exit from your institutions, we'll have an examination before making you an architect. See, imagine the situation of a PSSB. PSSB is a professional standard setting body. We are not regulating profession. Regulation is being done, if at all, by someone else. The government policy is minimum regulation, maximum freedom. So what happens is if a student who has acquired the desired number of credits, but is having a multidisciplinary credits as well, which are permitted. So how do we guarantee that every student who has acquired these number of credits is at a paritable level? We cannot do that. So to do that, we need to have a professional qualifying examination or exit examination at the end of accumulation of the number of credits that goes into a BR's degree, and that will qualify him to become an architect or to be a registered.
Will also this exam also kind of meet the industry requirements for employment?
Yes. It will be basically for that. It will be basically for the profession.
But I remember you saying first year certificate, second year diploma, third year like a BSc in architecture kind of a thing. Those there will be no exams at all. I mean, other than the college.
College level, whatever. College decides the parameters of judging or evaluating. That is their independent choice.
I also see somehow in all this, the role of COA kind of reducing as far as regulation goes. Am I right in understanding that? It's the onus is going to rest on the colleges more than COA keeping an eye on it.
See, it depends on how you look at it. It depends on how you take it. If you see the focus of the council in the last 3 decades was on education, and profession was totally neglected. All the mandate of the council is to regulate architectural profession and education. But for reasons known or unknown, the stress of the council was basically on education. And now that education regulation is going to go away from the council, we feel that the role of the council will be reduced. In fact, role of the council will increase manyfold, because you will become a professional standard setting body. You are going to set standards of profession. What is it that is expected from profession? What is it that you need to, become a part of that professional body? So council will become a professional standard setting body. And then council will decide that we have set these standards, professional standards. The institutions are trying to meet those standards. And through the exit exam, we will judge whether the standards that we have set are being met or not. So it's not that the role will be reduced, the role will be changed. That's what it is. The role will be.
So my teammate Sonam has a question. She says, will this exit test be based on specialization, in the sense, are you looking at certifying a heritage conservationist differently from a landscape designer? Will it be typology specific, like an office or a railway station expertise? Would those things also be tested, especially over a period of time? I remember us talking about even architects who are in professional practice would need to take certain tests from time to time to retain their authority to.
See, first of all, let us understand that there are only 2 countries in the world which give you registration immediately after graduation based on your degree. No other country does that. And for that, there are certain drawbacks that we are facing, certain employment issues that we are facing, reciprocal arrangements that we are facing. We are unable to sign international accords. We are unable to export our services, and so on and on. In fact, SEPC, Services Export Promotion Council under the Ministry of Commerce, has recently included architecture as an export service which can be exported. And we have formed a joint committee working on it. And the biggest roadblock that we face is that we do not have a professional qualifying examination. Professional qualifying to be a registered architect. So professional qualifying examination does one thing. It does not test your specifics of your expertise. It does not do that. Nowhere in the world it does that. At the moment, what do you do when you graduate as a BArch degree holder? You become an architect. What do you judge? You don't become a conservationist, or you don't become an urban designer or landscape. You do specialization to do that. You do a post-graduation to do that. And that will happen in the new system as well. I mean, if you have to have a post-graduation in a particular field or a specific subject, you will need to undergo that 1.5 year of either an integrated course or a special course of one or tri-semester course of post-graduation specialization. So that needs to be done anyways. But this professional qualifying examination will be independent of the specializations that you will do. It will tell you whether you are fit enough to practice as a registered architect, where you can sign and take the onus and responsibility of the project that you are signing. So it's basically that. It will also test the competency of an institute indirectly, wherein, let's say, from an X institute, all students qualified as registered architects. For Y institute, no one qualified. So that will become a parameter or benchmark of the level of an institute, the quality level of an institute. So it will directly improve the professional quality and the excellence that we are trying to achieve. So that will happen, and I'm fortunate the ministry has also approved the entire process. So it should be in place as soon as the NEP is implemented. And also we've formed a committee which is very actively working on to work out the parameters and the entire syllabi and the content of the professional qualifying examination that we'll put into place.
This question has been addressed by you almost entirely, but I'd still like to bring it up because it's something that's dogging many people. Malladi Srilekha writes, and she sent it in as an email, saying architecture is now declining due to the amount of money being less, us not understanding our value, while our field has a recorded history of, more than 4,000 years or whatever. Why is this happening now? Why are we not able to do anything about it? What should we be doing? And I'd like to just add another one more elephant in this room here. In recent times, the Architects Act and its limitations have been discussed, like you said, elaborately on social media. And anyone in the chair of the COA precedent is in the public eye. With that comes its share of bouquets and brickbats. You've had your share. There are many critics who speak of not enough being done for architects by COA, and there have been storms on this in social media. I'm not asking you to comment on the storm. But if I were to ask the question of many architects, why is the state of architects still perceived to be under threat? You have addressed it in some ways. Many buildings are still designed by non-architects. Empanelment fees are expected from architects. Prescription for fees and regulating the same is not being enforced. Once more, can we just talk about what is it that we are not doing right? As a community, as a fraternity, maybe even as COA, is there something more that can be done?
See, first thing is stop expecting from the council to do everything. All take care of your ills and pains, every pain that you have in your body of profession to be addressed by the council. Number one.
Okay.
Number two, it was a long question, so I'll miss a couple of things.
No, basically saying what do we need to do from here, considering we are not in that healthier state.
Yes, we are not in a healthier state for sure. The reason is we are minority in numbers, absolute minority. 1.5 lakh architects are registered in the country, 1,55,000 something at the moment. Out of them, active membership maybe 1,08,000. Out of that, 22,000 are employed in our schools, institutions. Out of that, 35,000 architects are not working or doing nothing. So effectively, that leaves you a handful of 50,000, not even 50,000 of architects who are actually practicing in the country. And we expect that we will do everything in the country that is happening. How the hell do you expect that only architects will design buildings? Only architects will sign plans? We did this in the state of Haryana. And there was such a huge bottleneck of plans which were not being sanctioned and which were pending for sanction because there were no architects going to the rural areas. We cannot expect, if you are expecting that non-architects will not participate or will not sign, or local authorities will not allow anyone else other than registered architects to sign, you are under a wrong impression. Don't live in that illusion. Just forget about it until our numbers increase substantially, that we are able to sign each and every building that is being designed in a country. So let's not live in that illusion. That's a delusion that you all are living in.
Nice. Yeah.
As far as registration is concerned, sorry, you were saying something?
No, I see your point saying that there's so much work, and if we do not have enough workforce from the architect segment to build that, then you're going to have non-architects addressing that. And if it's happening in the rural areas, that's bound to be acceptable in the urban cities as well. So
there can be no level of greed higher than this. I mean, take your example. Take the example of West Bengal. Leave Kolkata, Howrah, or one or two more cities. How many architects are practicing in West Bengal? Than these 2-3 cities?
Take Asansol, Durgapur, everywhere people have to go from.
Take Maharashtra, for example, it's a huge state. Maximum number of architects are 45,000 registered in Maharashtra. But where most of them, 90% of them are concentrated in Bombay, Pune, Nasik, Nagpur, where else? Kolhapur, Sholapur. But if you go to other hinterlands, you will find no architect over there. So how do we as fraternity of architects expect that we'll be doing each and every building that is being designed? I think it's a boon that there are non-architects who are doing this job. I know people will kill me for this, but it is a reality. It's a fact. So let them be. Secondly, if a local authority Panchayat, Gram Panchayat, Tehsil, Municipal Corporation, Development Authority will ask you for re-registration, then please tell us. That is against the law. We have been writing to every development authority in the country, every authority, statutory authority in the country, and we have been able to solve 100% of the issues that have been raised by this. So please let us know. We will immediately write to them. There's a standard letter which we write to all these municipal authorities regarding re-registration of architects registered with the council, that this is illegal. They cannot demand any money. They cannot ask for any re-registration.
So they
Right.
just write to the mail ID at on the council website.
At the council website, write to the registrar, write to the president, or if not, all the letters written to these authorities are there on the website. Just take
they just download it, right?
Just download and take it to your authority, and they are bound to listen, because that's contempt of the Supreme Court. They're bound to listen. So but re-registration, as far as, for example, I am practicing in a X city. That X city's statutory authority has a right to enter your name in the register without charging money. If they demand that you are registered with the council, fine, but this is our register and we want your entry in the register, that they need to do without any interview, without any documents, without proving your eligibility, without paying any money.
So an offshoot of that question on the state of architecture, there's students asking, how can we even advise our juniors to opt for a profession like architecture?
Don't advise. If you yourself not sure, why do you want to advise? You have done a mistake. If you think and you want others to do the mistake, don't do it. Forget it. Just don't do it. I mean, it's as simple as that. Why would you want to advise someone? It doesn't work that way. Unless you're convinced and unless you are happy in what you're doing, there's no sense advising someone else to tread the same path. Coming now to the why is it declining? I think that was the first part of the question. Why is the thing is
right?
We have been asked by the Rajya Sabha. There's a standing committee on finance of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. We have been appearing for the first time. We have been invited as a council to present our case and our issues with the Rajya Sabha. And you will be happy to know that every parliament session has about 10 or 12 questions on council and architecture.
Okay, that's
how we do it is a different issue, but there are questions being raised and a lot of feathers being ruffled on that. But we had to make a presentation. This the Rajya Sabha Parliamentary Committee Chairman did ask us a question: why is this decline in architectural admissions, and why is it not? But see, let us understand one thing. The presentation that we gave, I'm just trying to tell you a very brief 2-3 minutes of its contents. First of all, let us understand that you cannot remain on top forever. Let us understand that. The graph rises up and comes down. If you see, the engineering admission was not even 50%, 30%, 32% was the admissions that were happening in engineering in the last 5 years, while architectural admissions were full in the last decade. So, so that graph it's a cyclical graph that comes and goes down. In the last 5 years, before 5 years, we were doing very well as far as architectural admissions were concerned, as far as NATA appearing students were concerned, JEE was concerned, and so on and on. But now, once you reach that climax, there's no way but you have to, come down and then again rise up that curve. So we are in that downward curve, number one. Number two, there were 4 or 5 issues that we pointed out, which actually ails our system. Number one, like I told you, is the graph, which is cyclical graph. Number two is the long duration of the course. Number three is the expensive nature of the course. Apart from the fee that you pay, you have to pay almost equal amount of money, more than that on your stationery, on your other related products. So that is the expensive nature of course. Number fourth would be the packages, the salary packages that the profession is offering. Number 5 is the toughness of the course. If you see, the ratio of toughness is very high, as far as it needs a lot of physical grittiness to go through the course. And number 6 was the outdated system of education that we're still following, wherein we are not able to rise to the expectation of the younger generation. I mean, unfortunately, we are still teaching the way we used to teach. The teaching methodology, the pedagogies have not changed. I learned architecture 35, 40 years ago, and it is still being taught in the same way. If you take the example of basic design, basic architectural design in the first semester, the point, line, dots, and so on, compositions, abstract compositions, rhythm, balance, harmony, X, Y, Z. We're still teaching 40 years down the line, the same method and same methodology. The administrators of academics have not understood the changing and the aspiring needs of the younger generation. We still feel that the old archaic ways in which we were teaching any subject will still be relevant, while the generations and the expectation of the generation which is coming to learn in the first year and the first semester has totally changed, drastically changed. We need to understand this. And there have been innumerable number of instances which I have experienced myself personally, wherein a teacher is showing a presentation in the class, and the student already has that presentation from the net, and so on and on. So, I mean, the issue is that we need to change the way we are teaching to a generation which has a totally different set of expectations. So the level of disillusionment is very high. The understanding of the triad of information, knowledge, and wisdom is very, very critical these days. We have burst of information. There's no dearth of information that is available at your fingertips these days. The teachers do not rise above the level of converting that information into a knowledge system. There is a definite need and a critical need of teachers and the faculty learning to convert this knowledge into wisdom. And when that happens, the students will understand the value of learning and the disillusionment will go away. Unless that goes away, this trend will not be will be caught or captured.
Wow.
So this is what I understand.
Yeah, I hope Sri Lekha got what she was looking for. Can I just open the forum up for questions? If there's anybody, you can raise your hands and we'll unmute you and allow you to ask your question directly. Is there anybody who'd like to do that? Anybody from any college, a student, a faculty member? Just going to wait for a couple of minutes. There's one hand that's gone up, Nikhil Kohale. So Sunam, you want to manage that?
Yes. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Unless you don't grill me, I know we've been associated since a long time.
No, it's an honor, sir, to attend your lecture like this. It's been a privilege to work with you, as I have learned and taken my first steps with you, baby steps, as I call it. I have a question, sir. I've been listening to you closely in all these domains of education, practice, and this is something which I intend to ask about next as well, because I've recently started my PhD topic being close to something called as competency-based education. And of course, what we are talking about today is something which resonates a lot with that as well. And I'm sure NEP has already begun talking about it in many ways at the school level, as I understand. And slowly it will, of course, seep into our domains as well, undoubtedly. But before NEP, I mean, we heard about that. I was pondering about it in different ways until it became a study like a PhD. So I'm in the first year of my study, and my question I had posted on the chat, or earlier, not on the chat, I mean to say on the link which was there in the portal or the website. So there I had asked, is it the right time to move towards competency-based education, where the countries that are there in the West, or even East, places like Indonesia and stuff like that, or even Singapore, they are following such systems since long, Korea included. So do you think, I mean, I wanted to know your thoughts basically about moving towards a competency-based education, then as rightly said, the way in which we are managing our education currently.
No, absolutely. I think we are already late if you're not moving towards competence-based systems or competency-based systems. We're already late if you're not doing that. See, India is going to be the only country apart from China which is talent positive, which is going to be talent positive in the next decade. And what does that mean? That basically simply means that India will be exporting talent to the entire world. All other countries, including US and the Europe, are talent deficit, including the Australian islands and New Zealand and everything. They're all talent negative. That means we have to be ready to export talent to the world. And how does this happen? And that is what we're doing in the SEP. That is what the council is doing in the SEPC, wherein now we have included architecture as well. But this export of talent will happen only if we are having our education system based on competency levels and competence-driven education system. That will happen only if that happens. And most of the, some of the universities are also harping on this, some of are imbibing it. But Nikhil, I mean, the way forward is this. It has to be this.
Right, sir. So
no other way out.
it's definitely good to hear that, to kind of get a confirmation from you on this regard. Definitely, there are things I plan to do, not just as a part of the study which I'll be required to undertake, but I will be hopefully interacting with a lot of people on this, with a lot of experts like yourself. And hopefully I can trouble you again at some point of time and reach out to you.
Sure. So I mean,
Thanks.
when you're talking of talent, exporting talent, what does that mean basically? You know,
Yes.
you cannot say I am, you know, master. What do you say, jack of all and master of none? You can't say that. You have to be very, very specifically talented and an expert in a particular domain, and that happens when you imbibe a particular level and a particular vertical of competence that you're looking at. So it has to be very, very specific. You have to export talent. You cannot stand in the market and say, "Oh, मेरे से जो लेना हो ले लो." ऐसा नहीं होता. You have to sell something, you know, some product. कि मैं आलू बेच रहा हूँ, टमाटर बेच रहा हूँ, सेब बेच रहा हूँ. You have to have some kind of talent. You can't say कि तुमको सब मिल जाएगा यहाँ पे. It's very impossible to do that. Same thing with when you're exporting talent to the world. So you have to have a very specific vertical, and that comes with competency levels.
Thank you. Thanks, Nikhil, for that question. Anybody else who has a question, you want to raise your hands up? There's anybody else? Otherwise, I'll move to the last question of this session. So this is basically, I think I'd like the students to go back with some hope and not go back disheartened. And I understand that assurance is not possible under the COA's mandate. What actions from various stakeholders, according to you, from your experience as COA president and at PIADS, are required for a brighter future? I'll ask you one by one. For instance, what should colleges do differently?
First of all, colleges should come out of this mental framework of living in a watertight compartment, sticking them to the minimum standards, not excelling beyond minimum standards, struggling to meet minimum standards, which the council has set. You have to rise above all that and try to excel more than what is stipulated in your syllabi, in your curriculum. How many teachers actually teach, or institutions implore their teachers to go beyond the syllabi, beyond the content of the syllabi, make it more conducive to the aspirations of the younger generation that you're teaching, of a generation that you're teaching, make it more open, more, you know, that regimental, disciplined atmosphere is regressive to architectural learning. So that's what the institutes can do basically. And what the institutes should do is to involve senior practicing architects of their region, of their city, to come into their institutes and allow them to interact with the academia, with the students, and also, of course, concentrate on your research, concentrate on your papers, patents, or PhDs, but also start building, also start consultancy cells so that you are more intertwined into the fabric of architectural profession and vice versa. What happens is, you know, psychologically, what I have come to see in my institute and other institutes as well, when a practicing architect comes as a visiting faculty in a design studio, whatever, you know, he's respected, or, you know, and he's a hero of the studio. So the other faculty starts feeling a little psychologically disturbed and inferior probably. So keep away your fears. Let the practicing fraternity come and get involved. Pay them whatever they would want to. It will pay you in the long run. So let's open up the shackles that we are all living in our institutes, and let us be more open, more clear. Let us learn the fun way, and let us learn to respect the sentiments and the aspirations of the generation that we are teaching. Is what
Thanks. That's I think a lot of food for thought for the colleges. What about the professionals? What do you think they should do? You've said, of course, come to colleges and be there and give of yourself, but what else?
See, that is your social responsibility that you need to give back to the society, which has given you so much as a practicing architect. At least go and teach. If nothing else, go and teach and get involved with the local institutions at local levels. But stop unethical practices immediately. Stop being immoral. Stop taking, whatever. I mean, let it be. So, but stop unethical practices. Let us respect our fellow professionals. I mean, you do not even take a NOC, no objection certificate from a fellow architect whose job you are, usurping. Let's not do that, let's not do that. Let's be more sympathetic and sensitive to our fellow professionals, and let us excel in whatever we do. Let us excel in whatever we do. That's very, very critical and very, very important. We are not striving for excellence in our profession. In whatever we do, whatever projects we do, whatever way we deal with our clients, let us give back to our clients the best of services that is possible from your end. And let us strive to do that. And when we do that, society will understand your importance as an architect and contribution as an architect. And it will be an indirect service to the profession of architecture. So let us try to and strive to excel.
Thank you. Before I go to the next stakeholder, I thought I saw Sri Sri's hand up. Does someone from Sri Sri want to ask a question? It was up and it's not there anymore, so maybe it was by mistake. Is someone asking from Sri Sri? We'll have to be quick, please. Good morning, Rajji. Good afternoon. Yeah.
Oh, sir, आपने off कर दिया.
Yeah, can you ask your question, please?
Yeah, my question was actually when the entire national policy is focused towards skill development. So do we need to institutionalize our entire internship process for the students so that they get a good learning experience and we make them future ready to face the professional field? And does the 6 months of internship need to be extended to 1 year or maybe more, or whatever is felt rational?
Habeebji, all yours.
Can you repeat? There was too much of echo. So
She was saying, should we institutionalize the internship in keeping with the skills development approach of NEP? And yeah, so that was the first part.
The concept of internship was developed because the academia did not want to take the responsibility of teaching what is in the profession. They wanted to shirk responsibility and tell कि हम तो नहीं पढ़ा सकते तो आप पढ़ाओ जाके. Let's start this internship business. Basically it happened because of the gap that I was talking of, wherein the academicians do not practice architecture, and they wanted. Now look at the empowered student who comes back from practical training. His eyes are open. He has learned so many new things. His horizons have widened, which actually the institutions should have done that. The concept of internship will go away in the NEP. It will be transformed into a totally different system. It was 1 year with the council, but in the new regulations 2020, it is only 6 months. But let us arrive at a stage. Let us arrive at a state wherein we will not send our institutions to practical training, or internship, where we'll be able to competent enough to teach the students whatever the student learns in an office, in an institution. That will be the ideal situation. And that will erase and bridge the gap that I'm talking of, the chasm that I'm talking of.
If you don't mind, there are 2 more questions. It might take a little bit more of.
I can take it very quickly.
Yeah, Pratiksha, can you be quick? Unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Pratiksha.
Hello. Hi, I am Pratiksha from Bangalore. I am a Montessori teacher right now. I did 4 years of architecture and I dropped out and then continued into education. Now I'm doing my Montessori education. So my question is, there is this 3-year exit option that you have, that the council has spoken about in 2020, if I'm not wrong. I would like to know, because I'm talking on behalf of a few people who have dropped out in different scenarios like me. So what is the procedure? Is there anything that we need to initiate on so that some of these people who have actually completed 3 years and 4 years, can benefit out of. They don't want to practice, but they just need that degree. Is there a possibility that we can, is there a procedure that we can use to apply or initiate this process with the council through the colleges and the universities?
No, you can't do that. You can't do that in the present system. You have to complete your degree in 8 years' time. So if you cross that 8 years' time, you cannot do that at the moment. You have to start anew with the NEP.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. There's one question from RV College. Yeah. Will you go ahead and ask, RV?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hi, this is Meghla Gurumurthy from RV. Since we were talking about, academicians and people in academics not practicing, since the council actually sets a certain set of requisites for the various posts in academics, would it be a better approach to include few years of exposure to practice as a prerequisite to be part of academics?
You need to have 3 years of experience to become a teacher. In the new 2020 regulations, you need to have 3 years, then you qualify to become a teacher.
Oh,
3 years of practical experience or 2 years of postgraduate and 1 year of practical experience to become a teacher in the new regulations.
Okay, but since it says or, people could still opt for. No, it's not an option. Okay, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm just going back to the stakeholders that I was talking about. I'm going to quickly go through all three of them so you can answer it together, Habeebji. What should society and clients do? What should students do? And last but not the least, what should COA and organizations such as the IIA do?
What should the clients and the stakeholders do? What should the clients do? Expect the best of services. See, I mean, let the client understand one thing, that if you go to buy a pen, which is costing 10 rupees or 50 rupees, and there's a small scratch or there's a dent, you don't buy that pen, You go buy a car, which is costing, say, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs or whatever, a small dot of a paint or a scratch, you will not buy that car. And here you're spending money worth crores of rupees or lakhs of rupees. Why should a client expect dereliction of services from an architect? Why should a client expect bad architecture or badly designed house? So that awareness has to increase in the clients. And unfortunately, it is only we, statutory bodies or professional bodies, or we, a group of architects, who can do this and increase the awareness of architecture and the kind of services that we would want to give. And the client should expect that we should give those services. So that is what the role of the client is. And
students, I said next.
And the students. And the students should be, I think, should be very positive. I mean, there's a lot of negativity happening these days because of the packages that you hear of. That is because of the social media that you are having access to. And that is because of the level of interaction that happens amongst each other. See, when we were students, we were living in isolation, like a frog in a well. And now I think that was a better thing and a good thing to do. When we were struggling as architects, we hardly knew, our 5 or 6 people who were in our city who was struggling the same way. Whenever we used to meet, which we hardly used to have time because we were struggling to establish a practice, we were living in a cocoon. And that was, I think, a boon. Because now what has happened is the information that is available to you, not necessarily correct or true, or not necessarily every person is a vice chancellor of its own university in a social media. And whatever is written, we feel and assume that this is the correct information, the right information that is being given. And the negativity and the misinformation that is being spread is actually adding to the woes of the younger generation and then it creates a lot of negative connotations. So stay away from it and concentrate on what you're doing, love what you're doing. And I'm sure in the long run, it's a glorious profession. Believe me, we are able to change the quality of life and affect the quality of life of our fellow citizens by the designs that you do, by the buildings that you will build, by the public spaces, urban spaces that you will build. So be positive, contribute in the success of your country. There's no dearth of work. There's no, it's not that architects are fighting like dogs over a leftover loaf of bread. It's nothing of that sort. There's a lot of work there. And every architect has an opportunity to excel and do good and succeed. So be positive, be in that positive frame of mind, and refrain from wasting your energy on social media. And I specifically want to tell you this one thing to the younger generation, that you comment on social media, you interact on social media, and then you forget and you feel that you have done your bit in the cause. If there is some cause, you sign petitions in that change.org. What has it done? You feel that you have contributed and signed a petition. There were 15,000 architects, 1.5 lakh architects or odd who signed a petition to protect the Pragati Maidan, Rajrewal's and Mahendra Raj's building. But what happened? We all felt that we have contributed, but none of us went. Those 1.5 lakh people who signed the petition did not go and surround the building and stop the government from following it, because we feel that we have virtually done our job and completed our responsibility. Refrain from doing that. Act and contribute if you want to make a change for your own selves and for the future of your generations who are going to come behind you. Act positively, act in a concrete, methodical, in a fashion which will make a difference. Social media does not make a difference. That's my advice to the younger generation.
Those are powerful words. Thank you. You did mention that organizations such as COA and IIA should help build awareness. Can you just elaborate on what else COA and organizations such as IIA or even the local, there are a lot of local architectural associations, Lucknow Architecture Association or architects, builders, interior designers. What are the things that they can do to help the situation?
See, basically, no one blows your trumpet. You have to blow your own trumpet. And we architects rely on someone else blowing our trumpet for whatever reasons. I don't know the reasons. You have to tell people yourself that we are good. Come to us, give us the job. We will make a difference to you and your quality of life. We will contribute more positively than a non-trained architect. We have to tell them. Council has been doing that quite effectively, but it's such a huge responsibility and a huge job that only one organization like the council cannot make a difference. It's just a drop in the ocean. Each one of us has to contribute in increasing awareness of architecture in society, and the IIA can play a larger role in this. Or organizations like you're talking of other organizations like UP Architects Association, Lucknow Architects Association, so on and on, can work positively in doing this, in increasing awareness of architecture in society. COA is a regulatory authority. It makes policies, it regulates profession and education, but its executive wing should be a professional body like the IIA or other professional associations. Unfortunately, it has not happened in the past that the IIA or other similar organizations have risen to that level wherein they are able to contribute more positively in increasing awareness by organizing conferences, by debating in conferences and sitting in air-conditioned 5-star hotels, and playing cricket does not help. You are doing it for your own community. Time has come when you need to get out of your cocoons of your conferences, conclaves, seminars, regional conferences, whatever you want to call it, but reach out to people. Forget about your fraternity. They are taken well care of. They are aware of what architecture is, what architects do. Tell them to the common people. I implore the IA and other similar organizations to listen to this, introspect into this, look within their own souls as to what they're doing. Organizing conferences for your own people, bringing architects to your own people is increasing awareness in your fraternity, but that time has passed, that time has gone. Time has come for you to reach out to society and tell them what architecture is, what architects do. And that will make a difference. And that will be, a sea change that will come into our society if we are able to do this successfully, wherein we improve the awareness of architecture and tell what architects do and the importance of architects in society and building a country.
Thank you. I think you don't mince words when you say things, and
I'm already in the firing range, so
I was just going to say
more
that
bullets will not make a difference.
Yeah, I was just going to say you're asking for a bit more trouble there. I think the question that Kalpana has asked, you've already answered, but I just address it. She's asking practical training for 1 semester or 2 semesters, depending on the Indian university. But as per COA, what is the ideal period of training required to complete a BArch degree? You addressed it in different ways.
There's no need for a practical training. The institution should be able to train practically as well as academically. Well, and in the NEP, it will change anyways. It's going to come in a new avatar, new flexibility and new.
Right. I was also thinking in the terms of the need for a rural internship as well at some point in time for people to get sensitized. And that's something, again, I think it all depends on college to make that decision,
Yes.
really. So, well, in closing, I'd like to thank all colleges, heads of departments, students and professionals for being here. Thank you, Habeebji, for the clarification on the path ahead and for really throwing light on so many questions that all of us had. Thank you, NASA India and Neeraj for your support. Thanks to our audience for making this engagement a success. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank my team at Ethos who ensure that every event leaves a charm. Sonam, Nikita, Sejal and Krishna for being the rocks of SNS and ASET. Priyanka, Radhika, Kanchan, Motushi for ideation at IDS, and Akshata, Vaishnavi, Radhika for the ARCOS direction. Rasya, Shruti, Shivani for industrial awesomeness. Love you all. Alvida, and ponder on the deliberations we've had today and be the difference. So long until our next talk.
Thank you, Geeta and your team, and thank you everyone who has joined and listened to me for about almost 2 hours. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure and honor to be amongst all of you. I'm looking forward to such interactions in the future.
We'll have one where we see you as an architect, because I was quite impressed with the range of projects that you showed. Very soon. Yeah.
Anytime. My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.